Alrighty all, welcome back to the G-Man Show. I'm your host G-Man. We are talking about Victoria being absolutely effed. We got Jeff Kennett having a bit of a rant. Good old Jeffy boy, very passionate Victorian. We're going to jump in. I'm going to give you my take on it as a fellow Victorian.
We'll continue to look at this issue. As I said, I think many Victorians, including me, have finally decided enough is enough. As Andrew told us there, he's never seen Melbourne as dangerous as it is right now. So angry has the former Premier Jeff Kennett become. He penned a scathing Herald Sun column this week and last night went further on air describing the city he loves as being effed. He agreed to sit down with Sky News. I interviewed him earlier today in his office and started with asking the man who was Premier for 9 years if it was a bit over the top using the F word.
I'm going to say it's not, definitely not over the top. I think it's a very apt description of what's going on. I'm pretty sure a lot of you who live in Victoria, specifically Melbourne, have said this exact same thing. I want to talk about the CBD. I've never seen the CBD in Melbourne just as bad as what it is now. A lot of homelessness, and I don't blame people for being homeless, but let's just say what it is. There's a lot more people sleeping rough, laying on the streets, a lot of people walking around the CBD in Melbourne under some sort of psychosis, mental health issues, schizophrenic, maybe due to drug use issues, screaming, carrying on. You see violence. I find it to be dirty. I don't think it is safe for especially anybody at night time, but particularly women or the elderly going to the city. I don't think it's a good idea. The joint is an absolute basket case. You got crime. People, I've put in my comments, G-Man, crime is at its all-time low. What are you talking about? Every second day, there's some guy getting his hand cut off at a shopping centre by some muppets who think it's a good idea to run around and hitting and attacking people with machetes. Why is there a lot more crime? I'm just going to say it for what it is. And for the bleeding hearts out there, well, too bad. Facts over feelings. Too many people coming in and migrating from countries that have a different attitude towards violence, towards the law, towards having a respect for another human's health. There's always been punch-ons. There's always been, you jump in the car park down the pub. Some guy's been mouthing off, punch on. But very rarely is that going to end in someone being seriously hurt unless they fall over and, hit their head and stuff like that, and you hear about that. That's, very rare kind of stuff, or some Muppet King hitting someone from behind. Now we've got people cutting people's limbs off. I can't fathom what it takes to run through someone's mind to have a machete and think, you know what? I'm not going to think about the repercussions of hitting someone with this so you can ruin their life, kill them. Affect their life forever, their mental health forever, completely, over what? Some super shopping centre, gangland war, High Point versus Southland or whatever stupid thing you think you belong to. It's not South Central LA. You're not gangsters. You're a pack of idiots thinking you're cool because you got nothing else to do with your life. Why do you think they never, ever say the backgrounds of the kids who are doing... Oh, I'm going to say kids. These are teenagers. Of the teenagers who know good and well what they're doing on the news. You can see where they're from. You can work it out. They don't say it because they don't want to try and promote any sort of racism. But it's not racism if you say it's true. As I said, people punched on. You've had, skaties and surfies fighting and all this sort of stuff that used to go on. I don't really hear of that. Yeah, you get these Dero, what do they call them? What are the Deros called? Eshays, who get up to no good. I'm pretty sure I'm not hearing about any of them knifing people. You hear about them, trying to punch on, be a public nuisance, complete bunch of flogs. But they got nothing on these, Middle Eastern and kids from, various African backgrounds who come over here. They don't hold a candle to that level of violence. So it's everywhere. And then you got machete bins. Oh, yeah, let's just go and spend 15 million bucks, whatever it was, on some bins that no one's going to use. Oh, yes, they've got a machete bin down at the local police station. I'm going to go and submit my machete. And I'm going to do that without any threat of being arrested or looked at by CCTV and investigated. How stupid do they think people are? Yes, please put your machete in the machete bin. Oh, that's what happens. You got a bunch of nerds sitting in offices who aren't in the real world coming up with policies and ideas. Muppets running the joint.
Yes, probably.
Do you feel that strongly that you had to use that word?
I cannot tell you how frustrated, disappointed I am at where we find Victoria today. I mean, we have so many things going for us as a state and as a country, and yet we are financially going down the gurgler very quickly, which is affecting all of our services.
Good old Labor. And even after the whole COVID thing, Danny Andrews and now the predecessor Jacinta Allen voted in. You get what you vote for. Now, I know people voted for Labor because they believed that Liberal wasn't a contender and didn't have their interests at heart. Labor don't have your interests at heart. The only interest at heart that they have is to tax you through your ass with no lube to keep on pumping up their irresponsible spending. That's it. That's all you are. I'll make another video on this and I'll put it out tomorrow about this whole economic roundtable. And you see, so this productiveness summit, whatever they called it. So they sat together for 3 days and what they came up with was just I even talked about this. All they're going to do is come up with ways to tax people. And that's what they've done. It wasn't about productivity. How do they improve productivity? It's how do we tax people more? They're going after superannuation. They want to go after that more. They want to go after people with a net worth, including family home, to my understanding of $5 million. Inheritance tax. Wealth tax. It's seriously. What is the point in even trying to get ahead or busting your ass in this state? There is nothing in this country. I had people put comments, Australia is one of the lowest tax states in the world. What are you talking about? Countries in the world. What? I was recently in the US a few months ago and I was having a bit of a rant to one of the guys over there about all the taxes and shit we've got here. And he says, that's a joint, you need to get out of there. Sounds like a complete basket case. Even worse here in Victoria, just destroying small business, jacking up all sorts of taxes, property investors with the COVID levy. Absolute joke.
But worse, we've now got this lack of focus on actually addressing this lawlessness, which has almost become a competition between some of our young today, at great personal risk and price to people. So, am I frustrated? Yes. Should I have used the word? Probably not. But no, I shouldn't have used the word.
You and I are both old enough to remember.
Jeff, use the word, mate. Use more of them. I even remember being a kid. Okay, I'm middle-aged, or approaching middle-aged, whatever you want to call it. Got the big 40. When I was growing up, even 20 years ago, when I was an adult, a young adult, the place just had a different feel about it. It was a lot. I felt very optimistic about the future. I was a very happy person. And if you just worked hard, put your head down, you could get ahead as average Joe Blogs. You didn't have to be some big, massive income earner. If you just worked hard, saved your money, grinded, you could have a home, you could do all that stuff. You could afford life. Going to the supermarket was seen as a cheap option to going out and doing stuff. Go to the supermarket now. They got those. I couldn't believe it. It's like a Lindt chocolate box like a double-sized one. It's $20 on special. $20. What? Who's paying that? You got to be joking. Went and looked at the recent. It's a gourmet butcher. Recently, he had lamb cutlets, $82 a kilo. What? $82 a kilo lamb cutlets. Where are we living? What is going on here? Joint is absolutely effed. Effed. People will try and say, grind, work harder. But at the end of the day, from where it was 20 years ago to where it is now, I actually feel sorry for Gen Z and Gen Alpha coming up behind them. Like, that's it. The horse has bolted for the final time. Millennials had the last opportunity to get somewhat in the market when it wasn't completely ridiculous. Still ridiculous, but not to the point that it's going to be. Now, I will say one thing is that Melbourne hasn't grown as fast as the other states. So in terms of looking at broader affordability and property, it's actually, in my opinion, I think it's underpriced across the board in Melbourne. If you look at all the other states, particularly Sydney, absolutely skyrocketing. So Melbourne, hey, I think it'll still have its day. I think it'll have another pump. But at the moment, who wants to come and live here? If you're not already here, who's going to go, I'm going to migrate to Melbourne, unless, internal migration, obviously. Who's saying, everyone's looking at it and going, no way. I know people leaving. Going to Brisbane, going Adelaide or Perth. Get out of here. Absolutely nuts. The joint is effed. It doesn't have a good vibe about it. People are angry. People are fed up. Look who we got running the joint. Do you have trust in who is the Premier of the state? Do you have trust in even the Prime Minister of the country? Who does? Come on. Look at these people. No one's batting for you. All they care about is gender politics and geopolitical political correctness and flooding the joint with migrants, mass migration to prop up the taxation revenue at the expense of people who have been struggling to survive and making it worse.
A campaigning Herald Sun, and you were in opposition, and Joan Kerner was the Premier. I think they ran a black front page, basically spelt the end of Labor. This, I think, is Labor's ground zero on crime. You are most concerned about that. You talk in that interview about being afraid of your own safety, afraid safety of your grandchildren. I feel exactly the same way. How the hell has the beautiful city of Melbourne, once the most livable in the world, got to this point?
Because who's running the joint? And we flooded it with migrants who couldn't give stuff about our culture, about the way of life that we live, about being harmonious with people, respectful of people. I'm not going to say all of them, but there's a small percentage who ruin it for everybody, and that's what's causing a lot of these problems. I don't have kids, but I wouldn't want to be a parent right now with teenage kids going out, as you do, coming of age, house parties and getting pissed on the beach or whatever young groups of blokes do, walking around the streets after having a couple of beers with your mates and worrying about what they're going to get up to. Are they going to come home? Are they going to run into a bunch of thugs who are going to want to rob them, and it could end really badly? Let's talk about the crime. Home invasions. That really wasn't a thing. I never heard of that until like 10 years ago. People coming in with groups of these thugs, criminals, who are in their teens, fully masked up, balaclava, coming in, kicking your door in when you're asleep, taking your car keys, trying to steal your car or steal what they can out of the house, like rush it, like mob it, have 20 of them run through the house and just grab what they can. They go to supermarkets, they flood them. You've seen the footage of that. They go in, there's 50 of them, they run in and they just grab shit and run out without even thinking about it. When has that ever happened until recently? Oh, you're racist, you're racist. No, I'm not. I'm just saying it for what it is. People coming in from other parts of the country with a huge hatred and chip off their shoulder for the country that's taken them in. I don't get it. I really don't.
I think, without being overly political, it's because those we've given the opportunity and responsibility to look after our affairs, particularly our safety, have simply not done so. And so we now have a situation where, as I indicated a minute ago, in many ways it's become a competition between these young people out there, part of which I blame on COVID, disruption to education. You've seen the scores at schools, men down lower than ever before, men, young boys, frustrated, no good at employment, out there trying to prove themselves.
I think it's sad. I think it's also a war on men in Victoria. Good luck trying to be a man with a shred of masculinity here. You'll be snuffed out of here. They'll want you to be a transgender or gay or something. Or androgynous. You get what I'm talking about, pushing that shit in schools to 5-year-old kids. We live in a messed up place, in my opinion. If I reflect on what it was like when I was going through the school system and coming of age and going through those teenage years into early adulthood, there was as I said, there's an air of optimism. Go get a trade, go to uni, do what you got to do. There wasn't all these extra worry. You're not worrying about Palestine, and you're not, all these bloody protests and all this shit that's going on here. LGBTQ marches and all that sort of stuff. It was just felt like a normal life. I felt we're living in a twilight zone here. I always feel like I want to leave the planet, just jump on a rocket ship and go to Mars on a colony there. Put in the comments. Do you remember a time where it was really great to live here? Yes, I do. The 90s and 2000s was awesome. Awesome. Started going downhill in the 2010s, and now here we are in the 2020s, and the joint is absolutely effed. But, let's just keep bringing in more migrants. Let's just keep taxing small businesses. Let's keep taxing the people more. Let's keep doing things that force businesses to raise their prices. Like, it's just, it's anti looking after the people. People go, oh, Labor, they're here for us. They're not there for you guys.
And it's getting worse. And sadly, the government doesn't seem to care. Now, just think about it for a moment. 3 or 4 ingredients. You need a good government focused on your and my safety and our children. You need a police force that has the manpower and the powers. You need legislation to make sure that the judiciary understand what the options are and their freedom of choice and interpretation is limited.
The police force, let's talk about that. They need to be given a bit more authority to crack down on people. Like in America, just chuck them on the ground, kick him in the head. F around and find out. The cops will come for you. Here, they got what? They got really nothing. Oh, I'm going to arrest you. Stop doing what you're doing. Put your hands up and get in the car. And then we got cops here who they hire. It's like diversity hires. Well, you got, young, small, dainty women cosplaying as police officers, and when the going gets rough, think about you got a big Samoan guy or some big African guy. And what are you going to do? He's going to smack you and throw you on the ground. You're not going to be able to grab him and put him in the back of a car or back of a DB van or do a forceful arrest. There's been videos going around of police women, and look, I got nothing against women. That's what I'm saying here, but it's just not fit for purpose for this job where there's violence, right? Ground zero violence. They get punched in the face, and there's all this outrage globally that a policewoman got punched in the face. Anyway, I know I'm ranting here. I'm going way off topic. Just fully charged up today.
Right now, we have a situation where our police force is technically 2,000 under manpower strength. 1,000 less people and the other 1,000 on sick leave, etc., with another 700 potentially to go before Christmas. The laws do not allow, current laws, do not allow there to be a strict guidance for those magistrates and others, and there should be.
Has the judiciary been politicised?
Oh, it may be, it may not. The point is the government should make sure they understand what the rules are. So I've come to the point now where I believe the only way through this is not to fix these issues of policing, government and the judiciary. We've got to go for zero tolerance. We've got to change the culture. But it's not going to happen overnight. You can do it over 2 or 3 years.
That's when you get all these progressives in power, in government. Mate, F around and find out. Get thrown to the ground, as I said. Get a smack in the face and thrown on your head on the concrete if you're doing something stupid like that. You're running around with machetes. You're committing serious crimes. Oh, no, you got to pepper spray them. I'm not saying use lethal force. I'm saying people need to fear the police. These kids need to fear the police. They don't. Police are a joke to them. Oh, if you run away from them, eventually you'll get away, or they can't do this to you, or they can't do that to you. But they know what they can get away with.
But if anyone commits a crime, there's got to be a consequence. And importantly, the magistrates do not have a choice as to whether they give bail or not. The only choice I think they should have is whether their interpretation of the crime committed by the individual, partly dependent on their age and the nature of the crime, sends them to a prison farm or to a youth centre or to prison itself. They don't have the opportunity of saying you can go back on the street. And then you've got to give the police the powers and you've got to direct the magistrates and the judiciary that we're going to clean this up. But it will take 2 or 3 years.
The police seem...
And they had this thing around being bleeding hearts for these people who come from damaged backgrounds. I understand some kids have a hard upbringing and they act out and do stupid things. So I'm not going to say this is a violent crime. I'm not talking about stealing a packet of chewing gum from the milk bar. I'm talking about hitting people with lethal weapons and grand larceny and grand theft auto. Oh, if we lock them up, they're going to become a institutionalized criminal for life. These people who are doing these things are not going to stop doing them. This is the way that they are wired, and there needs to be firmer consequences. Not like a year in jail or 2 years in a boys' centre. If you go and hit someone with a machete, hey, you're getting big time. Or you're getting deported if you are a migrant. Gone. Make an example of some of them.
Directionless. Their morale is shot because they arrest a 15, 16-year-old who's broken into someone's house, armed with a machete.
Yep.
They take them to court and they get a bail. Not once, not twice, but multiple times. We can't live like that because these kids will say, I don't care if I get arrested by the coppers. Nothing's going to happen to me.
That's exactly right. And I feel very sorry for our police. I mean, as I say, they're undermanned. There's no backup to them in terms of the law. And the government doesn't care.
Well, we got a case this morning. Woman goes out to the garage. Her car's packed with her suitcases and passports. She goes back inside to get her children. They were going to the airport to go to Bali. She comes out, someone's got in the car and driven off.
Well, where is our government? Why isn't our government protecting us? Why isn't our government changing the laws as a matter of urgency? So some of these changes they're introducing, whether it's looking after our children's interests in childcare centres, doesn't come into effect till next year.
Machetes, you're not allowed to carry them, but you can until September 1.
Yeah, and then if you've committed a crime and you go up to one of those machete bins, having committed a crime, you can throw it in and say, I was only here to get rid of my
And they've
machete.
spent $300,000 on 40 bins.
Whatever.
I mean, this is madness.
Well, it's worse.
But I don't blame you using the F word. It's madness.
It's worse than madness because it's affecting people's lives. It's taking lives. but it's actually affecting people's lives potentially for the rest of their life. In other words, you live in fear. This is not...
Exactly what I was saying. So all these things they're coming up with are real wet, bloody limp-wristed ideas. Anyone caught holding a machete, wielding a machete in public, a dangerous weapon, who doesn't have a good reason for using it, like having a job that requires that, make it a punishable offence. Like literally a really solid crime. So people are scared, not just, I'll put it in the bin. Or nothing to see here. I'm just coming down with mum and dad and I'm going to take my machete that was under my bed and I'm going to put it in the bin. Yeah, okay. Who's going to do that? Those bins are going to be empty. I'd be surprised to see how many machetes get put in there.
Victoria. This should not be Australia.
You and I are lucky. We're in our 70s. I mean,
keep it.
We've seen the best of it. But so many people of our age, when you talk to them, say, I'm going to get out of Victoria. I'm not staying here.
Yeah.
I mean, when you add up, the new emergency services levy, land tax, all of that. I mean, when you got elected Premier way back, you realised that there was a huge debt. And you actually put a small charge on money going in and out of your bank account. And you said, I'll leave it on there until we pay off our debts.
Until we can get back into surplus, not till we paid off our debt. But no, and that wouldn't work today because the debt is heading towards $200 billion.
But you were prepared to take unpopular decisions.
Yes, but with due respect, this government doesn't seem to care. They're borrowing money without any sense of obligation to those who are going to follow. You and I'll get through our lives. Our children, our grandchildren won't.
Ooh, Stevie's looking at Jeff Kennett there just going, ooh, was this going to go somewhere I want it to go? Look, the Giants stuffed. That's all I can, in my opinion, that's all I can say. I remember when it was good.
To bear that. But right now, our security is at risk. We're not living in a third world country. We're living in Australia.
No, we are living in a third world country because we brought a third world country to here. We're living in an Australistan. Yeah, we are. We are. It's incredible. I said I've got nothing wrong. I've got no issue with migrants who want to come and have a great life here, contribute. But not people who come and do this shit. And I'm sure it's not all migrants who are doing this, right? Or children of migrants who are doing things that are wrecking it for everybody who comes from those particular countries here. And getting them tarred all with the same brush. And the parents who probably came here and worked 3 jobs and busted their ass. You got these kids now here thinking that they're Tupac, thinking they're Biggie Smalls, Suge Knight. They're out there doing what they're doing because I can't even think about why. There are opportunities to work. It is hard out there, but there are opportunities. Life's never been easy. But yeah, the more people you bring in, the harder it is to get a job because it's not like they're creating new jobs to keep up with the amount of people coming in. As I said, Melbourne's going to be we're at 5.3 million at the moment, or at the last sort of count. Well, I'm not sure how long ago that was. It was this year at some point. I just did a quick Google. We're expected to be 9 million in 25 years. So just think about what the joint is going to be like then. 9 million. 9 million. Almost double. Joint's bursting at the seams as it is. So I'm not looking forward to it. When I'm really great, when I'm probably Jeff Kennett's age, that's what's going to be the reality.
And the government doesn't care. So, yes, I was frustrated, and I publicly apologise for using the word, but that's how I feel. I am so pissed off.
Well, you're right to be. We have a poll out today that says Jacinda Allen, when they have an election next November, if it was held this weekend, she'd get...
I can't stand any of these people. I haven't lived in the real world. Never had a real job. They've been funded their whole careers by taxpayers' money. They're getting their annual increases. They've got job security. And all they're doing is sitting around in their offices thinking about ways to screw the people. Whether they frame it in that way or not, But that's what they're doing. I had people write in my comments, "Oh, tax is good, G-man. Out of tax, you don't have hospitals and that and that and that." When does it stop? When does it stop? Because you taxed on bloody every single thing. Hidden taxes, levies, and all the surcharges, whatever it is. All the different registrations you pay your rates and car registration and all that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the rant. Let me know your thoughts and views in the comments.